I guess I was lost. I had addictions, and back in 2014, I was on a ladder in my backyard, cutting a branch, and it swung and took the ladder out from underneath me. So I fell 25 feet, I broke my back, my spine, 8 ribs, and punctured a lung. And I got rushed to the hospital, and my neighbor was a pastor, and he came down to the hospital and witnessed to me, and that's when I accepted the Lord. But I came out of my Egypt at that point, but I was still living in sin. I was going to church, but I was addicted to pornography for the longest time. That was my secret sin that I did in the dark, when nobody was around. And I was going to this church. I got married to a woman that was also going to church, and we went to that church for a little bit, and then because I had a daughter from my first marriage, we decided to find another church. Well, we were going to this other church for a while, and I was learning and growing, reading my Bible, and then I finished the Bible. So just like any other good book, you stick it on the shelf, and that's where it stayed. And I had this addiction that I couldn't break, the chains that kept me bound, as I like to say. And my addiction to pornography started messing with my head. The more I watched it, my wife didn't, it was my secret sin, so my wife didn't even know I was addicted to pornography. When she would go to bed, I'd stay up late at night looking at pornography. And then, because of that, the one day I got confused about my gender, and I went to my wife and told her I was confused. And she says, well, maybe you're transgender. So the devil started putting that in my head, so then I thought I was transgender. And then the one night my wife was out with some friends, and I drank myself to death. I started drinking and didn't stop until I was unresponsive when the ambulance got there. So I spent the night in the hospital, and then 10 days in a rehab center trying to get better. But when I went to the hospital, my wife told the hospital that I was transgender, and that I went by she and her, and that my name was Erica. So when I got out, she had it all lined up for me to see a therapist, and I went 4 times to see a therapist. And he said, well, you're transgender, go to the transgender clinic So I went up to Cleveland to this transgender clinic, and they put me on hormone replacement therapy. So for the next 5 months, I was Erica, and I was a trans woman. And then the one day I was sitting on the couch, and the Lord just showed up. I felt like he was sitting right next to me, talking to me, deep in my sin, and it was like he was ministering to me and talking to me. And it was that day that my chains from my addiction to pornography just fell off. I tried so many times, and I kept running back to it, just like the dog going back to their vomit, and then I would pray and ask for forgiveness, and I was right back there the next day, looking at it again. But it wasn't until that day that the Lord showed up on that couch, sitting next to me and ministering to me, that chain broke and fell off me. Being a trans woman, I didn't know where to go to church, because most people don't accept trans people, And I prayed and asked the Lord, where do you want me to go? And he says, go to New Life. So I came to New Life, just how I was. So that was last March. I started coming here, and then one day the Lord said, go to the altar, and So I rolled down here, and some women came and prayed over me. And after they prayed and cast some things out of me, I went home, and the Lord's like, all right, You're at your crossroads. Make a choice. You can have the world, or you can have me. What do you want? And I jumped in with both feet. I ran after God, banging and knocking on that door. Seeking with my whole heart. I've been just like learning and growing and getting closer to God. He left the 99 to come for me. And it's not until you realize the goodness of God that it keeps you from going back to the vomit that you were in. Once you experience that joy, there's nothing like it.